Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast. That is, play the Opinion Potomac Watch podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot with Alicia Finley and Bill McGurn here on our Potomac Watch podcast. We've been talking about economic policy, specifically taxes. Let's turn to another element that's crucial to the American economy, and that is foreign investment, particularly the controversy over Nippon Steel's bid to buy U.S. Steel, of course, the venerable American company, but the company that hasn't done very well in recent decades, has fallen behind as a leading global steel producer, still in business, protected by Donald Trump's tariffs on most foreign steel products. Nippon Steel wants to come in and buy U.S. Steel, has made a bid, been accepted by U.S. Steel management and shareholders, and it's about $14 billion, I think, Alicia, is the dollar value of it, and they promised to make significant investments in U.S. Steel, not close it up and move out of the country, as critics claim, but they want to upgrade U.S. Steel's plants.
Right. So they're actually proposing to invest $2.7 billion in refurbishing some of the plants, including one in Pennsylvania and another in Indiana, that just hasn't had the money, the U.S. Steel hasn't had the money to do because it's been bleeding money for the last decade. And so it hasn't been able to invest. Now, the unions are the United Steel Workers, which represents workers at U.S. Steel, but also the competitor, its chief U.S. competitor, Cleveland-Cliffs, claims that, well, this is going to come at the expense of workers. But Nippon has agreed to honor the collective bargaining agreements. I think that there's a lot of cynicism here at play, and I think Cleveland-Cliffs is worried that Nippon Steel will actually make U.S. Steel more competitive and will put pressure on Cleveland-Cliffs. And this is kind of going back to the 1980s when a lot of U.S. steel automakers were really worried about the Japanese coming in and becoming more competitive and making the U.S. automaking more competitive, but it did, and it actually made U.S. car companies better. And I think you could see probably the same would happen here with Nippon Steel. Yes, you'll have increased investment. These plants will become much more efficient. And one other thing is the U.S. Steel CEO actually came out and said that if the deal doesn't go through, it will probably end up having to close this Pennsylvania plant and shift more of its production to this new mini mill that it has in Arkansas.
So U.S. Steel workers could lose their jobs as a result of this. Of course, the union will say, that's just scare tactics. But there's also a lot of politics going on here, not just the populist pandering here, but Cleveland-Cliffs made a bid for U.S. Steel, which U.S. Steel rejected because it was too cheap, right? And, of course, U.S. Steel made the deal with Nippon, which was a much richer offer. Now, Joe Biden, in responding to the political pressure from unions, the steelworkers, tossed the issue to the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which is a very secretive committee of representatives of the major economic agencies in the United States. And he tossed it to them and said, you look at this. I have my questions about this deal. And it now looks as if this is going to come to a head shortly, with Biden reported to be coming out against the Nippon Steel takeover as early as this week, presumably with some kind of CFIUS statement. That is CFIUS, that's the Committee on Foreign Investment statement backing this up. And just to herald, Kamala Harris said the following this week. Let's listen.
U.S. Steel is an historic American company, and it is vital for our nation to maintain strong American steel companies. And I couldn't agree more with President Biden. U.S. Steel should remain American-owned and American-operated.
I have to say, it puzzles me, Bill. Why does it matter who actually owns the shares of a company making steel in the United States? If they're going to invest in U.S. steel, who cares if it's Japanese investors doing it?
Yeah, Paul, this is pure demagoguery. Nippon Steel is offering cash to invest millions of dollars in the steel industry to make it more competitive. The reason there are these bids is U.S. Steel is not competitive, and they have to do some for his future. And I think, to paraphrase the old line, national security, which has been invoked, is the last refuge of scoundrels. You know, when I saw Cleveland Cliffs making that argument, I thought, this is really terrible. You know, and it's also crazy for Americans to make this argument. Our companies are all around the world dominating certain industries in certain countries. And I think they're a huge benefit to those countries in terms of income produced, jobs and everything, making the economy better. And yet when someone of another country, particularly Japan, an ally of increasingly strategic importance, given China's designs on Taiwan and so forth, we treat them as a villain. It's such an old cartoon casting of this villainous foreigner for insidious reasons trying to take over an American company. But again, it probably plays to good politics. You know, find the villains. Don't worry about the effect on the economy. That'll be a footnote a year from now.
And we should say that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump have both come out against the Nippon Steel purchase. And J.D. Vance, of course, playing to the United Steelworkers in Ohio. So, Alicia, what happens if Biden comes out against this? Is it basically dead?
Well, I think Nippon's going to try to push through, but I think you can see from its stock price, which took another 20% plunge yesterday.
U.S. Steel price.
U.S. Steel's stock price took another 20% plunge, is now trading below where it was even right before Nippon made its deal, that investors are discounting that this will ever get done, because there really is no appeal process for if CFIUS denies or rejects a transaction. Trump has already said that he opposes it. Now, I think some of that was election politics. I don't think he's inherently opposed, but he does think that this will play well in Pennsylvania. And to your point, J.D. Vance, Cleveland Cliffs CEO, has said that he wants to buy U.S. Steel on the cheap at a 45% discount. Now, I'm not sure that deal gets done either, because it'd be difficult for him to finance. But I think investors, and I think the writing is on the wall, that it is basically killed if CFIUS comes out against it.
Terrible signal to foreign investors who want to invest in the United States. And of course, we need capital in the United States. We need two kinds of capital, right? We need human capital, that is people who are smart and innovative and skilled. And we need money capital, because it takes investment to be able to drive an economy. And the U.S. has traditionally been open to that kind of investment. You can understand some wariness about investment from Chinese firms, though not all. But Japan? Come on, man. I mean, this is not herald a good omen for American growth and economic vitality going forward. All right. After that editorializing, I want to thank Alicia and Bill for being here. I want to thank all of our listeners. We're here every week on Potomac Watch, and particularly for the next 60 days or so, it's going to be one hell of a ride into Election Day. Thanks for listening.